seen RNG consistently ban Kalista on both sides against EDG last time they played. So if EDG take the Wukong, they may still be able to lean on the Kalista, assuming Gala isn't willing to play it. But EDG go a completely different direction and lock in an early Sejuani pick, which is a flex, but not something I expected to be first picked.
Yeah, because now I feel like you can just take the Wukong, take the Zeri. You end up in a really good spot here for RNG, both in your jungle matchup and also on the bot side. I mean, unless they're thinking, hey, look, we'll like take Trundle here for Junjia or something along those lines, like try and find the counter matchup to the Wukong. But I just think that Wukong is so strong, especially when you're looking at the way that RNG are now trying to play the game, with Wei being the engage tool. Like, it just feels like Wukong is the easy bet here.
Yeah, I will see how it develops. One thing that we have seen LNG do very effectively with their big playoffs run is that they would put their Sejuani in the jungle and they would have like a melee top laner and often a melee mid laner, but they'd be able to lean into their solo lane. So maybe concerned about how Flandre did in the last game, they want to try and ensure either he has a safe lane with the Sejuani or a lane they can lean on if it's a Sejuani jungle.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they're thinking, hey, look, if it is going to be Sage jungle, let's just take the Sylas, right? Let's get that picked up nice and early. But I mean, maybe the Kog'Maw Lulu going to come through here. But no, look, yeah, I think the Sylas is probably saying, look, this is going to be the Sejuani jungle. We're going to try and go for these melee champs, and we'll have to see exactly what the answer is going to be for the rest of this now.
The big thing I'm looking at right now is that because you've obviously picked up your, what we assume is a top laner and your mid laner, and not your support on this kind of, 3 picks, you're now leaving RNG to pick up the Lulu for the Zeri, and then just start banning away things that work well with the Zeri.
Well, here's the thing. It feels like a call-out, right? You take Lulu, okay, well, now we've got a good matchup for the Sylas. You take the mid lane, which it looks like Xiaohu's going to go for, well, then we ban away the supports that can be the enchanters that Zeri wants to play with. So I feel like that's basically what EDG were calling out here.
And I like the RNG go for the mid because, yes, you would have the Lulu, you'd have that enchanter advantage, but the thing is with the Sivir, you could go in 2 directions. You go towards the engage support or, things like the Renata, but ultimately the mid pool will get pinched. And I think here RNG know, look, we are going to have counter pick if we want full breathe. We'll be able to see where the Sejuani goes, but also we get first choice of support coming out the next rotation, so we can make sure that if the pools get pinched from both sides, we still come out with first choice in that regard.
I'm quite curious to see, though, what EDG want to leave open if they are thinking, look, we'll ban support. So Rob, I'm going to be taken off the board. It feels like they're setting up for like a Leona or Nautilus or something along these lines, but almost feels like they're trying to bait RNG into taking that Ming Nautilus as well. We know Ming's incredible on it, but it means you end up giving the depth charge over towards someone like the Sylas that can also then play that engage tool on EDG.
I feel like Nautilus is just so hard to play against Sivir because she has the spell shield. I know it's such a good pick for Ming, but I probably would have banned it there. The Amumu makes sense as well because it's so good into Zeri, but they have left the Nautilus open, so we'll see what EDG do. If they do ban the Lulu here, that might end up just forcing RNG to take that Nautilus. Might be something they commit onto. We'll see what direction they go, but there's also like Renata they could pick into, which does well into a lot of these engaged supports.
I'm curious to see if they kind of go, look, we won't take the Nautilus. What we'll do is we'll actually take something like an R here for breathe on this next rotation. Okay, actually, I think you just go back to Lulu here if they're going to just go for the Renata ban. But I was going to say you could take like top lane for breathe, leave counter pick for Ming. If they take the Nautilus, you go Leona. Well, then you got a good matchup at least for the laning phase, and you can move on from that. But we'll have to see exactly what the game plan is.
I just think it's too risky. I think when you have a Sejuani in the jungle already, if Flandre picks a pick that is really going to punish breathe, like if we get the Renekton again and it's Renekton Sejuani into a Gnar, they could really set your top lane behind. So there's risks with taking the Lulu here, but I think it makes the most sense. And now for EDG, I feel like maybe just take the Nautilus in this situation. Like, it's not the Vi from last game, but it does the same thing. You can't cleanse the CC from him. It's point and click, so it's very effective against the Zeri, and it looks like they're going to pick that one up.
Yeah, I think it's just a great addition. As you say, like, more engage, follow up with the Sejuani. You've already got an enabler now for the Sylas as well, and looks like it is going to be the Renekton for Flandre. So do we just go back towards the Jax here, or is he willing to take the more aggressive side of the matchup? I saw that Aatrox over there, and see if they can go for the full bloodbath on the top side.
I would love that. Just randomly whip out like Comet Aatrox and be like, no, even though this is specifically a Gnar build, I'm going to go for the Eclipse build. But looks like RNG are happy to kind of, like you mentioned, get that counter pick in. They're taking their time with this last one here. It looks like they might be going back to it. Again, very difficult to dive in Aatrox post 6, so they're going to lock and load that one in and get themselves, again, something that in topside can do well.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely punish the Aatrox. If you get up in his face, you get the stun, you get the layer and the CC. But the reason I think this pick is coming out for them is you're against 4 melee champions and a short-range AD carry. If you get in the mix as this Aatrox, you can get so much value from the Qs.
It's a twofold, right? I think it's a very snowbally matchup in the top side. Like, if you can get way up there early, swing it in Breed's favor, I think he's going to be a good spot. But it also doesn't actually give a great ultimate over to Scout, right? We think of a lot of the traditional top laners that we're seeing at the moment, like a Gnar, a Kennen, anything like that. Just an Ornn all give great ultimates across the Scout. This doesn't, and as Ox was rightly pointing out, like you're up against a very short-range composition, which actually enables this Aatrox brilliantly.
And I think the big thing as well, you'll even bring up the Sylas as well. We obviously see so many amazing clips, specifically of Scout in recent days, but it does feel like it depends on the ultimates available to him. Obviously, the last clip, it was the Kennen and things like that that can kind of snowball you away. But in this one, there's not really a huge amount to kind of grab that would have that kind of same pop-off performance.
Yeah, it's like there's some CC options. Like you have the Wukong, which is okay. You have the Wall, which has some utility. Zeri ult actually has a decent AP ratio. Lulu ult, yeah. I mean, they're all okay, but normally when you pick Sylas, you want one like really good ult that you can rely on. That's why we saw so much into the Gnar, because it's like it was short cooldown. Every fight in the late game, we have this fantastic ult, and I just don't think Scout really has that. I don't think that's a massive problem, but I do feel like you have a great point that you said, Rob, where RNG haven't given a fantastic tool over to the side of EDG.
I think as well from RNG, like you have so much control over this early state of the game, right? Like the push that you get in mid, you can always lean that up towards top side, especially as you hit level 6 with Xiaohu, start to turn that matchup in your favor like we saw in the last game. Breathe is going to be so good into this short range combo. I just love what RNG are bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like if it does go into the late stage of the game, having the Taliyah into a bunch of melee champions, having the Lulu in a bunch of melee champions, I feel like RNG are so favored. So EDG did lose out on the top side last game. They need to make it work for this one to go in their favor.
Advantage to RNG. As the EDG now look to try and equal up the series again. Winner of this best of 5 goes to Worlds. That is what is on the line. You're not quite out of it just yet if you lose, but you definitely want to be trying to secure that as quick as possible. EDG now on the blue, looking to try and see if they can get something going for themselves. And now RNG see what they're able to kind of do, because again, like you mentioned, we saw a lot of focus in that first game on that top side of the map. We'll see if RNG want to try and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more about matching, because I think it's hard to beat like Renekton Sejuani in that 2v2, just because if Renekton connects the stun, you instantly proc the follow-up stun for Sejuani, and it just means you can instantly press that E. It's very hard to compete against. That's not to say it's impossible, but I think for the side of RNG, I want to see them tracking Junjia. I want to see them scouting him out and making sure he isn't able to leverage that pressure top.
And it feels like it is a case of RNG want to try and outman or outnumber the people on the top side with Xiaohu, right? You get push mid, then you lean top, then you have the numbers advantage up there, but already we're seeing Flandre getting some nice trades, but this is a very snowbally matchup, so every little bit is going to help.
Well, the sweet spot's coming out here as both these top laners look to try and make it some form of an advantage for themselves. And actually, you can see Flandre, he was willing to let go of minions there just so we can get the early push.
And I feel like an interesting thing to talk about is always, yeah, just a little bit like poke. Interesting thing to talk
like
about.
How you held it as well. Yeah. You were like, do I continue?
Interesting to talk about when you see lanes is like how aggressively are they willing to trade to set it up? Because if Flandre is confident that Junjia is going to be top soon, then going for a heavy trade, so both of them are low health, is going to be beneficial. Whereas if you're in the position to breathe, trading, even if you come out slightly ahead in the trade, if your jungler is not going to be topside anytime soon, which looking at the map isn't the case, you're going to be in trouble.
Also, I think he just did a really good job of pushing Breathe back, forcing him away from the minions. I'm pretty sure you actually lost the experience there for Breathe off those first 2 creeps. Our first creep that died as well. So just getting these little advantages where you're seeing Flandre already with the level 3 and now a potential dive coming in on that top side.
Yeah, notice Breathe actually popped the health potion as well just to make sure he was as healthy as possible, expecting maybe a dive in the stacked wave. And also Xiaohu does a fantastic job of chunking out Scout because Scout is trying to move in. They want to make this 3-man dive happen. And I feel like getting Scout low helps, but it's still going to be so rough for Breathe.
It's going to be rough for Breathe. He's got himself a couple of different moves. We're going to see now Junjia taking the aggro, and Juggernaut takes the kill, flashes away, keeps himself alive.
Brilliant job from EDG. Scout trading his health bar in the mid lane to make sure he could get up for that dive. You've got the damage there with the easy CC from that top jungle duo, and that was just brilliant to execute it.
Yeah, and especially Junjia being the one to take aggro, being a Sejuani with Aftershock, you really don't take that much damage from those early tower hits. Now, would you see a gank coming in bot lane? Viper Meiko overextended.
Yeah, they're a bit overextended. We are going to see the heal used there to try and speed them up a little bit. Ming actually flashed in forward as well. The Nautilus taken very low. Will he go down? Yes, he will. Gala flashes in for the kill on that particular one, and they do get the trade back on the bot side.
That was so volatile, though, because the thing with Gala is finish with the right click. If you didn't have enough damage, if you miscalculate, you can't Q through because obviously it hits the target in front of you. Fantastic blocking for Viper, but still, it's RNG who managed to trade the bot side of the map.
Yeah, and nicely done. I mean, getting the kill onto that Zeri as well, so important in getting this Zeri up and rolling in the early stages. And I mean, especially when you're kind of seeing the top side of the map not going so hot at the moment for RNG, finding the advantages on the opposite side is going to be crucial to keeping this game within touching distance.
And I mean, you have a Zeri buffed up with a Lulu. This is going to be that late game powerhouse. But, you know, EDG have set that game plan up. I want to see them try and keep putting that pressure onto the top side of the map. Keep trying to find these plays, find these moves, especially before level 6 when Xiaohu gets his wall.
And I love that we're seeing Scout like playing into that win condition, right? Like oftentimes when you see a Sylas in the lane like this, he's going to be using the chain lash to try and farm up. He's not going to be trying to go over aggressive, but speaking of aggression.
Yeah, they're going to try and jump on the Flandre here, who does flash from Breed just to try and bring him in, but the Infernal Chain shall not whip him back. So Flandre gets himself a summoner advantage, but Scout might have gone a little bit too far forward here in the mid lane. The flick back is good. He's got nowhere to go because Ming got himself a very nice roam. Xiaohu picking up the 1 kill in mid lane.
I mean, really good roam there, but we may not be over. Junjia's fell way, and oh, this ain't his day.
No, it ain't his day right now. He's going to be CC'd down, but again, he's still a Wukong, still has the decoy, still would have been able to get himself away. And Flandre's actually taking a pretty bad trade, so scraps across the map.
Oh, but I just think it's such a fantastic read from RNG because when the reset timings came in, the whole team opened up top lane. Ming was ready because he knew there was a gank coming in top. So if, say, Meiko had gone for a roam, was going to match him being there would still give them that advantage. But then we see him just divert that attention to mid to get that kill. So really heads up play. But it looks like EDG are trying to find something in return.
Yeah, they're going to look for him. He's in the fog of war right now. Breed is playing respectfully and is just kind of waiting for this wave to push into him. It is stacked in his favor, so he doesn't need to overextend.
But this does feel like old school RNG, doesn't it? Like, hey, look, we want to try and play around this top side. Let's start getting Ming roaming. This is like 2021 RNG trying to play around the top side of the map and see if they can make it work. But at the moment, or EDG just have the numbers advantage on that top side with Ming needing to go back down towards that bot side. And looks like Scout once more might be able to get a push in the mid lane, but Xiaohu level 6 and covering this potential top dive.
This is the pain point. One Xiaohu has that level 6. He's so good at covering side lanes. Something we really praised him for in spring at MSI was even if the team was focused a bit more around the bot side of the map, for example, he would shadow top and be able to lean in and cover the plays. So despite the fact EDG had, you know, 2 members there, didn't feel confident in making the play happen. And I feel like that's the big effect of the Taliyah. Once that 6 is hit, you have to be so certain that you can make the play and get out again before Taliyah turns up.
Still though, moving back down towards this bot side, EDG looking at maybe trying to set up around this dragon for the moment. They have pushing mid for a scout. You don't have Viper in the lane though, so he'll have to push out this lane before they try and make anything happen, but just going to take the scuttle crab for the moment.
You see a little bit of a shift there from Junjia. The aggression we talked about in game 1 definitely coming to the forefront in game 2. Obviously the Renekton and Sejuani exceptional at kind of making that happen for them, but right now it is on RNG to try and, like you mentioned, mitigate that. With the Weaver's Wall now available, you're waiting for that Cyclone, that big kind of roam to a lane, overload it, kind of just force bodies on top of it. Could be very difficult for EDG to deal with, and they've got to be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like EDG want to keep pushing the momentum forwards, want to be setting up for skirmishes. You have a Renekton, you want to be picking up that first Herald and pushing the pace of the game forwards. So the note here is they have this stacked wave in the bot lane with that cannon. If they push this wave in, we could see their bot lane make the first move to the Herald, and that could be enough to get an advantage, but Wei might have snuck in on a really sharp timing.
And Wei's doing such a good job of tracking these plays from EDG. Like, look, you'd look at the play potentially top, but Wei's already here.
Yeah, Wei is here, but again, no Cyclone, not level 6. Was going to try and thin out this wave to make sure he can try to get up to that spike.
It's such a good play, though. Wei's going, hey, look, Breed doesn't have flash. Junjia is looking at Rift Herald. He's pathing back to topside. That's the most dangerous part of the map right now. So they're like, cool, let's make sure that we cover that.
Xiaohu.
Now you get to push out the wave. Is Xiaohu just about getting away from that?
Yeah, it feels like Xiaohu should have expected that, right? We knew that Viper and Meiko were going to be moving up. Loses his flash in that situation, and the fact that the bot lane were later, we actually saw Gala and Ming started to move and then pulled back, which, you know, they don't get as much value as they could. But either way, EDG get what they want, RNG get a plate, but maybe could have got more if they just kept Gala and Ming bot.
I think that's what they're trying to set up here. Xiaohu was leaning down towards his bot side, maybe looking for a potential dive on Viper, but because they knew that Wei was kind of stuck on the top side of the map, Scout moves back mid, puts pressure on mid lane, and makes sure that Xiaohu has to come back to cover his own turret. So at the moment, EDG starting to get a little bit of an advantage when it comes towards the L neutral objectives.
We're having a much I think much more tempered start to these games
this
compared to
This is what you
yesterday.
expected. This is what you expected, bro.
This is the chess portion of the chess boxing match. You got the boxing match in part 1. This is the chess
I was just
version,
thinking,
all
like people watching yesterday, it was like, fights over nothing. It was all hands diff, you know, hands checking everybody. Are your hands ready to go? This one's a bit more kind of like, right, you know, knight to c7.
This is your
you know?
gentleman's LPL that we're getting right now.
This is a bit more tempered, but that does mean that we are starting to kind of get to a point where, you know, you do end up getting big power spikes, and it's a more intelligent style of the game. It's about where and when you fight rather than how you fight.
And I think the next topic has to be this Herald usage, because I'm going to be real, even though RNG won game 1, some of the Heralds were a bit, maybe not the optimal usage, waiting a bit too long, not finding the right timing. I want to see EDG make a considered effort to find an angle to get a good Herald, and they can leverage that quite easily through top, but also with Meiko being level 6, if you can free him to move, you know, even if you go bot, but wherever you are, pop that ultimate on the Nautilus, get a pick, get a kill, you have the ult for the Sejuani to follow, and that is probably enough of an advantage for you just to slam Herald and maybe get a whole tower.
Especially if they can find a fight here. Dragon, I mean, level 6 for Meiko, level 6 for Junjia, TP for Flandre. Like, you have a lot of opportunities to try and find a big fight around this if you would like to. Even Breathe, look at him moving down here, trying to match the fact that Flandre had already started drifting.
And RNG just look like they're kind of happy to cover bases. They don't want to have anything to mess with right now. They know where their power lies. And it's definitely not walking into EDG in that Dragon Pit. So they back themselves away, and we can see a little bit of a fight over Scuttle. And Breathe wins that fight.
Yeah, the nice Infernal Chains there to lock up Flandre. We're like, no, this is mine. And now we'll go back to top side. But I think, honestly, like, for RNG, this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, right? Because you're still trying to match where Junjia is at the moment. You can see him kind of drifting in behind this mid wave, seeing if he can get a bit more gold for Scout. But you've also got to be careful of, like, hey, you know, Viper not being as far ahead. He would love to get some of that gold, but...
It's a 3v3 in mid lane. We're going to see the ultimates used. Xiaohu does get the wild growth given over to him. Stolen by Scout, so Scout knows he's going to be a little bit tankier. As we're going to see now both junglers and supports just trying to hover around this mid side, waiting for the anticipated fight.
And that was a window we were looking for from EDG, using those pick tools to try and take out Xiaohu. If he dies, they slam the Herald mid, and they'll get it pretty low, chunk it pretty hard. But the cleanse from Xiaohu allows him to move away. The ult from Nautilus takes too long to connect, and they just don't quite have the damage to kill him with Ming there. So fantastic job from Ming to match. And now, Junjia, time is running out. You've got a minute left on the Herald, and you're still trying to work out where to slam it down.
Yeah, but you can see the problem that EDG are going to have as we start to get into the later portions of the game, right? You've got great backline peel, and Flandre will be able to just scoot his way over this wall, but you got good backline peel and Ming. Xiaohu being able to throw then the Unraveled Alert prevents Flandre, Junjia, Scout, Meiko all from having those dashes in. So you have to be very careful how you set up these front-to-back fights, and that's not even including something like a Cyclone from Wade that can also help to buy space. So you definitely have to see if EDG can try and find these more isolated skirmishes where they're able to separate RNG and play through like the fact you've got this incredibly strong trio on the top side.
And I'm going to be real, considering we saw that early attention top lane, we saw the Sejuani Renekton combo prioed, hasn't really amounted to much yet. And we see, finally, the Herald's going to time out, so they slam it mid, and they just get the bog standard 2 plates. They aren't able to leverage even more pressure. They aren't able to get more than what the Herald is worth. And as a result, despite the fact that they slam it down, they're not that far ahead in gold.
Hey, and I was told coming into this that, you know, spring is supposed to belong to RNG, summer is supposed to belong to EDG, but this is looking pretty damn good for RNG thus far, right? Up a game in the series. They're looking like they're in a good spot to control this. Even as you start to go towards the later portion of the game, you've got great late game damage from the Taliyah and the Zeri. Breed starting to take control over top side. Like, you need to try and hit your stride here as RNG, or EDG.
I mean, that's the big thing as well. Like, you know, EDG are the current reigning world champions. They want to go back to that world championship to defend their title. But right now, they're having to go against the current reigning MSI champions to kind of say, look, we deserve our shot at it. During spring, during the month of May, we were considered the best in the world. This is just a kind of a 2 powerhouses coming at each other within the LPL. And neither really wanted to try and give away an inch because they know that either side will take a mile. So very tempered, very slow to start off the game, but just very smart, honestly, from RNG to kind of just deal with any of those early aggressions from EDG.
And that's what they need to do. And I feel like this is textbook RNG and what we saw from them in spring. The top esports series, the 2 that they played, it was like top esports were a bat out of hell, and RNG were trying to bring things back in the mid game to great effect, honestly. If you watch over those series, top esports had an early lead more often than not, but couldn't extend it. And I feel like this is RNG's prime position. They have a comp that is going to favor them in the later stages of the game. The enemy team want to push the pace forwards, but every time they attempt attempt to. They are just stonewalling them, blocking them, and trying to keep the pace of the game as slow as possible so it favors them.
And I've been really impressed with Wei in doing so, right? Like, he's been the person that is always showing up in the right place at the right time, like, just eking out that pressure on towards top side, beats out Junjia to top lane, buy some space for Breathe. Then you see him matching a lot of those times that Junjia is trying to move mid, is trying to move bot to use the Rift Herald. And even here again, you can see he's doing such a good job of matching where he expects any of this pressure to come from Junjia. And it's why EDG just haven't quite been able to get use out of this top side trio that is so strong.
This time around, though, we do have EDG kind of moving up their bot lane. RNG have matched them, but they're already on to Shelly, who's been taken very low. And speaking of being taken very low, Meiko gets caught, uses the stopwatch. I feel like that was a bit unnecessary, and now doesn't have that tool for any fight in the future.
Yeah, I mean, just trade it for the Rift Herald, right? Junjia now is going to move topside and try to at least crack open this top lane structure, but you do still have to be careful of RNG, who are sitting in this mid lane, and with Dragon in 20 seconds, that they can just move over towards that objective and at least get themselves on the board when it comes towards these Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, Meiko's going to be back up, but he has to run straight over, and the fact is, he's the one with the vision, right? He's the one with the wards. They'd committed their vision to the top side of the map, so now trying to contest this Dragon is going to be so difficult to do. We see the pick in the bottom right, just Meiko a bit overextended, tries to use that Q, that dredge line to buffer it, but now Dragon started by RNG. Junjia can Q over the wall and contest this.
Here we go, he's gonna go for the steal! Gets it within broad daylight. Wei now trying to walk away because they don't have the Aatrox. Breathe hasn't joined this fight just yet. Couple of flashes blown here on the side of RNG as they fully disengage. RNG get both objectives, and that's a big win for them.
But EDG committed a lot to bot side. Breed still pushing in that top. Unfortunate, obviously, that RNG do lose the steal, but we have to see if they'll be able to get a little bit more. But now you get Rift Herald going down in the mid lane, and EDG looking to pick up the pace.
I gotta say, though, getting that Dragon for EDG was massive, because their win con is looking towards that Soul. If they didn't get it, I would feel so rough about their chance in the game. We saw how strong Hextech Soul was yesterday, because that was the Dragon, that was the Soul that top esports had when they won against JDG with an Elder buff. It really gives a lot of power, so EDG need to get every Dragon for the rest of this game. They need that one at 4 minutes, they need the one after that to keep their hopes alive, but it's still good passage of play. They get a Dragon, they get the mid lane tier 1, let's see what more they can do with the game.
Hextech Soul is also just so good for this composition. Like, when you've got so many melee champions, having that slow to chase down members of RNG is going to be so crucial. Flandre now on the bottom side, and Xiaohu says, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, it does dodge out, though, from the flick back. The polymorph used to stop him from flashing, but Wei is already on the back end of this one. No dominance, no flash. He gets chill smited to make sure he cannot run away, and yeah, Cyclone, easy pick up there for the side of RNG, but they're still pushing in that mid lane, so they won't get this turret, but they'll be definitely putting down a serious amount of hurt.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pressure done here. Now they're looking for Breathe.
No, they pop down from the depths. They're going to use the Sejuani ultimate as well, try and lock him down without any auto attacks coming out. It means he does not sustain, and all of a sudden we're seeing some very big changes, and EDG are coming out on top. They're getting 2 lanes compared to the RNG of 1.
Yeah, I think I might have to check the replay to see if Breathe got to move on that play, but I mean, mid tower gone, top gone. Like, that was such a good upgrade for EDG, and you can see it reflecting the gold now. This is the first time they've really started to break away when it comes to the gold lead, and you're starting to see like big item breakpoints coming online as well, with, you know, Viper moving up towards his Phantom Dancer there, just completed. The reset going to come through from Scout. He's going to be in a good spot. I think they just love to see Scout getting a bit more involved in these plays so he can stack up things like this Dark Seal and really hit this mid game in his stride.
But at least some momentum, and I think that's really what EDG needed. Often the mid lane tier 1, breaking that open, can allow you to lean a lot more pressure, but RNG's committed so hard to the bot side, kind of left out both of their mid and top out to dry. So we now have a point where eventually EDG have a bit of a goal lead, 2,000 ahead. And as you said, Viper with those 2 items in a position where he can be strong on this next Dragon fight. But EDG continuing to lean around their the top side jungle and are looking for Xiaohu.
Yeah, Xiaohu does not have flash, does have cleanse, but it's only a Sejuani. I say that he was not fully aware where everyone else was. Nautilus and the Sivir creeping up through that jungle means he had to get rid of that summoner spell pretty damn quick.
Yeah, and you can see the reverse, right? Now you got RNG moving bot side, and they're like, cool, Dragon in 2 minutes. We're going to establish full bot side vision control and make sure that we're going to be able to try and contest you as you look to take back control over River. Breathe pushing into this bot side as well. But I just want to quickly touch on the item picked up here for Xiaohu. I love that he's gone for the Crown of the Shattered Queen here. It means that his damage in late game won't be as high as something like the Leandri's Anguish, especially against a very tanky squad. But a lot of the burst damage is what EDG are going for. So having that little bit of a duration where you're going to be able to deny a lot of that upfront burst is going to be great, especially if you're the one getting picked.
Yeah, up against the likes of a Sylas, like, it makes so much of a difference, able to extend the fights out as long as possible. And when you see him, I think he's just trying to finish off and get enough gold so he can upgrade into the Ceres, which he does have that tier fully stacked. This is the point where like teams are looking at the next dragon. That is the major fight that we're looking towards. And I think setting up how these teams want to play, RNG have a lot of tools to try and pin down targets threatening them, right? The Unraveled Ear, the Polymorph, but really something that could favor EDG is if they're able to find good flank angles. If Flandre can get on the back line, especially when a Xiaohu has no cleanse, no stopwatch, that could make all the difference. So EDG want to be able to set a vision for this and approach this in a creative way.
Yeah, it feels like any of that top side of EDG finding a flank could be lights out for RNG, right? Like, they've got such good setup to allow the rest of the team to follow up. Junjia with the CC that can get Flandre into position, Scout into position, and it definitely feels like they're going to be trying to eye up Gala in that play as well, see if they can get rid of this Zeri to kick things off. But we'll have to see if you can get the response from RNG with, we talked about the peel from Xiaohu, peel from Ming, Wei trying to see if he can disrupt the follow-up from EDG. These are going to be crazy fights when they kick off.
Well, I've just seen all the item spikes come in. Literally, there's two item pickup
Ding, ding,
from...
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, everyone's ready. Flandre has a stopwatch. Everyone is gearing up for this to be ready for this fight.
I mean, even with the Hex gates coming out, but I will say, EDG, they've taken the time to put down the vision control. They're the ones that have got pretty much full control around this river. With Dragon now spawning live, that one little ward is spotting out towards the sides, and they know that Flandre isn't really taking the Dragon, so they know they've got time to move in now and take control around this pit.
Very early Shirelia's Reverie from Ming, though, just to buy themselves that space in river, so that won't be available if they're trying to see if they can cut away from EDG. But Gala just trying to see if he can land the poke. Same when you look at Xiaohu, trying to use that range advantage that they have.
Yeah, I love as well the Breathe is not only covering the flank here, but just making sure, like, they need control of the Hex Gate, because the threat is, with Hex Gates on the map, makes it a lot easier to find those angles, and now they're going in.
They are going in. We are going to see the Everfrost completely whiffed, and as Breathe kind of takes a little bit of a 1v2. There's the ultimate from Junjia, just to kind of get away, as EDG find themselves on a little bit of a bad side of the map. RNG very willing to try and turn onto that one, and we can come back into it. There's still a TP on Breathe.
Yeah, I mean, you chunk up Breathe, Breathe's going to be able to... Ooh! Gets the reset, but the fight's starting.
They were looking for it. It's a 4v4 for the moment. That's Wei's clone, as we're going to see a three-man flick
Oh my
back.
God.
And that's the go single. They're going to use the Cyclone now. You don't have a jungler. Gala picks up the first kill, as we can see the Wukong pick up the second. And in the blink of an eye, a flick of a switch, EDG are completely routed. RNG have destroyed them in this fight.
It's decimation from RNG. What a flick from Xiaohu. The seismic shove sets it up beautifully.
Man, I was honestly thinking one of the downsides to RNG is that they don't have as much engage tools, right? EDG have so many go buttons, so many ways to start the fight, and I was like, well, how is Taliyah supposed to start a fight? Well, like that, right? That beautiful triple knockback that we're going to see in the replay. And we see Flandre not able to stop the reset from Breathe, but they think, okay, we'll try and make the fight go. But over the wall, that control will give him vision. Just so well done.
Yeah, I mean, great bait on the TP as well, but it almost felt like Flandre tried to get onto Breathe, disrupted EDG's engage. They were all timing for Flandre on the flank, but he jumped back. It meant that you didn't have that 5-man collapse as quickly as you'd like, and with that seismic shove, RNG just get to chase them down.
It just feels like RNG have the coordination and EDG are struggling to match. And now that Dragon means even if EDG get the next one, they're still so far away from Soul. We're getting to the point where Zeri's nearly on her third item, and it's starting to feel painful, right? This Renekton hasn't really snowballed. There's so many tools on RNG to shut it down. The Sejuani, you know, isn't going to hold up as well in the late game when you're getting peppered by the tanks, but Wolfen fight coming out.
Both Flash going to be used there. Wei should be able to get out. And again, it's so difficult with a Lulu and a Wukong to actually break them down.
See, I'm going to need EDG to step it up because Oisin's going to be unbearable.
Yeah,
if RNG
buddy.
win, that Oisin is the only one
didn't
that is
have
voted
any
for them
faith.
because RNG
You
are
said the
looking
same
so
thing
good.
yesterday about your 3-0 for JDG.
Was the correct decision JDG or not? Did you lose? Did you lose?
3-2 for top esports was a lot more accurate than your delusional 3-0
All right,
for
children, we
JDG.
got to hold off here. EDG and
Predictions get heated. They get really heated.
So RNG still trying to see if they can play out the map. They're doing a good job of defending, at least on their top side here, to stop EDG from getting a ton of this vision control and trying to play for picks before this Baron potential fight. But I mean, RNG immediately rushing down to the bot side. This is something that RNG have been so good at when they get these leads, is very much establishing control in the enemy jungle, making sure you cannot move without them realizing what's happening, and just controlling everywhere that EDG gets to move.
And a big part of that is, again, someone who has stepped up massively in this series is Wei. 4-0-3 on the Wukong. You mentioned it earlier. Shadowing Junjia, making sure he couldn't find that aggression, really stepping up for the side of RNG. And again, it's just they're one of those teams, if they're in control, if they're deciding the tempo, they're always going to be favored in my eyes.
And that's the thing, like the keyword is deciding. They can really have their choice of what they want to do. Setting up around Baron, make the plays, especially on red side, can be rough because you get trapped in that pit. So there's no huge emphasis for RNG to really accelerate the game by trying to do some crazy Baron flip. Honestly, if I'm going to be real, maybe EDG try and do that. Try and find an angle to get a pick to start a Baron and make that happen. They are looking for Xiaohu now.
Oh, he goes in, but the flick back is good, and Scout's got to be a little bit careful. Never mind, he's got himself an entourage. So Xiaohu will go golden to now get his one, saying, hey, you got a team, I got a team. It ends up just being a trade of the Zhonya's Hourglass, but at the end of the day, actually no, it wasn't even the Zhonya's Hourglass, it was the stopwatch, so they didn't know that it's down. We might see EDG maybe look to try and pressure around this Baron.
Yeah, I think the problem is, one of the sad things, if you're against an AP champion and you burn that stopwatch, it really doesn't have as much impact because they'll build the Zhonya's eventually, but you can see EDG have the game plan. They want to pick to start the Baron. They're starting to feel the timer working against them, but it just wasn't enough of an advantage. You burn Xiaohu's stopwatch, chunked him out a bit. He's got a Weaver's Wall, he could be back in no time, and with how strong RNG are, it was just too much of a risk.
And you can see that EDG are starting to realize, look, we've got issues when it comes towards these objective fights, because look, the Warmog's starting to come through for Junjia. He knows he's going to get poked out by things like Gala and Xiaohu who get that regen coming back in towards your favor. You're going to have to see if you can try and find these creative ways to close the gap here, because otherwise it just feels like at the moment EDG just don't have a way of really fighting against RNG, and they keep poking them down.
Little tidbit, I don't think Wei's actually taken his Krugs once. I think it's literally been Junjia or Xiaohu every single time. Scout's not looking to see if he maybe cack out. Yeah, very scary right there for the bot lane of RNG. But again, Scout on the Sylas, again, a pop-off performance. We know he can perform.
Look at that ward just next to the pixel bush there. Really well placed. And this is one of the things with playing support, is you have to get creative. There's optimal places to put your wards so you get the most vision in the area, but they're always swept. So you want to try and sneak them in, try and avoid the sweeper. We see a couple of control wards in the area. We saw Meiko with the sweeper down, but they did miss that one. So Ming, as long as he keeps vision in that area, they can stop them doing Baron, but with Dragon and 30, that needs to be the new focus.
And that's the thing, all the wards are established on the top sides. Now both teams starting to move down, see if they can get control, but Scout getting good sideline pressure, he's pushing in on top side, so now you've got to go and respond to that. Or, you know, for EDG, not great to give over a second Dragon, but I mean, if you're going to start putting pressure on towards an inhibitor turret, maybe that is the call here.
You're looking for the Warmogs here for Junjia, but you don't have it just yet, so this poke is going to hurt. You're basically just a massive meat stick right now. You've no real resistances, so that is still going to hurt.
Yeah, it's 3 items Zeri as well. Gala has hit critical mass, and I think for EDG, you have to kill the Zeri if you want even a chance in this fight.
They're looking for it. It's a bit of a pinch coming out here. You can see both top laners off to the side. The flash in from Meiko. He wants to try and jump down on top of the Zeri. He's going to flash away. They get the hook back, but Gala's just not dying right now. They're committing so much. Eventually he falls, but look at these health bars. Viper's already out of the fight, and the rest of EDG need to try and kill Xiaohu, but they just cannot do it. This Aatrox and Taliyah are still valid threats. Almost Flandre gets down Xiaohu, but it's just too damn good.
They get Viper, but they get Gala, but it costs so much in that fight. You have to invest so many resources to take out the Zeri, and Xiaohu well, I mean, not untouched, he was very low at the end, but did so much throughout the fight, getting the damage down. Yes, EDG did what they needed to, but it still wasn't enough.
That's the thing, the Immortal Shield Bow procced, Ming with the wild growth and the shields, and also being able to Whimsy, one of the divers here from RNG, made it so tough. Wei does a great job to get onto Viper to stop the follow-up. That's what we're talking about his job needing to be. But look how long Gala survives here. The Infernal Chains yoinking people off of Gala, then the Whimsy denying a ton of that follow-up damage. It means that they have to invest so much time around Gala that Xiaohu is able to get a ton of work done, and this is kind of heartbreaking for Flandre, but we might be into it again.
And Breed is just vibing, by the way, on the Aatrox. All these melee champions clumped together. He's like, this is go time for me.
I mean, like you said, it's Aatrox into all these short range, if not melee champions. He's just able to sit there, hit sweet spots over and over and over again. Xiaohu being the big damage dealer that last
How
fight.
did Gala get 2,500 damage on? That's what I'm more surprised at.
It's even more surprising, yeah. It's just one of those things. It's just Zeri things, my friend. Just Zeri things. But now the focus...
Maybe 1W. 1W.
Would W hit or, you know.
Yeah. It's part of the kit. You got to move forward with that. But now we move back up towards this Baron pit. We can see Xiaohu, or excuse me, Breed now maybe looking to try and defend this bot side. Scout and Flandre looking to maybe get a bit of a 1v2. Breed should be able to dash himself over the walls. That should be fine for him. But you're now showing two solo laners bot side. You're just going to give up pressure around the Baron.
And that's RNG leaning, trying to secure vision. There's still a Scuttle Crab there, so they can't do much, but I feel like RNG don't feel pressure to do anything desperate right now. It's EDG leading two members into the side lanes to try and make
Oh, double TP!
Oh, this is crazy.
It's a bit of a pinch coming in right now, but they're going to have the Aatrox in. Oh my god! Xiaohu's damage is disgusting. Now you've no Sivir. It's going to be onto Scout, who does find out Gala, so no AD carries in this fight, but Xiaohu and Breed are just decimating, destroying, and absolutely rinsing EDG. There's nothing they can do because they're just too damn big.
It's crazy to say, but the Zeri just isn't mattering in these fights. Gala gets deleted, but the rest of the team are there. Wei and Xiaohu are huge, and honestly, Ming, that polymorph is so frustrating to deal with. Scout locked down for so long. Eventually, they clean it up, and they'll head straight over towards that Baron.
Really good stuff from RNG. These fights have been so well coordinated, and EDG once more routed as they try and go for the play. They tried to get creative with the TPs. It could have been so good, but it's just been Breed decimating people in these fights, way consistently getting onto the backline. And the fact that Viper was gone before the fight even started made it so easy.
I just found it crazy, though, is like the TP started coming from EDG because they're like, okay, we need to force something. But at the same time, Xiaohu was going for this play in return. They ended up so manic, and then Wei finds Viper. He can't really play the game because the follow-up is there from Xiaohu. But then the extended fight, right, Gala does go down pretty quickly, isn't even able to stopwatch. But watch how much value Breed gets in here, and then this polymorph onto Scout. He's trying to pop the W, trying to heal, and he just can't play the game.
It's just no hope. I mean, for EDG now, you're...
hope played yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's why there is no... Yeah. But that's the thing. At this stage, you're completely outscaled, right? Gala is kind of hitting his stride. Xiaohu's looking fantastic. Breed has been a menace in these fights. Like, what do you get to do?
I love how you say Gala's hitting his stride. I was just like sandbagging in fight and letting his team clean up.
But he's definitely striding somewhere. I don't know if it's the right spot to stride to, but...
Hey, he's vibing in the gray screen. But the thing is that because they know that the Zeri is such a massive threat, you have to commit all those resources. You have to commit so much CC to it that you just can't really divide it equally across RNG.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, EDG are kind of doing the right thing in these fights, because imagine if they don't kill Gala.
It looks even worse.
The game is just done, and now he's got a stopwatch still in pocket, approaching the GA. It is going to be hard to take him down, but RNG using that Baron, trying to apply pressure and take some more structures.
And this thing is like 3 potential Hex Tech Dragons for RNG's composition. It's just so disgusting. I mean, pretty much for any composition, but in particular for someone like Breed on that top side, they get so much value out of both the ability haste and the extra attack speed for Gala. Like, it's just so nasty.
See if EDG have got anything to respond with right now. RNG kind of...
for a flank, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you have to force a fight now. It's not getting better, it's only getting weird.
Here we go. They're going to look for Gala, but he slides and glides his way around. Now, Flandre thought he was on a flank, but he's actually caught in a cage match all alone, 5v1. He goes into stasis just to try and flash away, but you've now used everything before this dragon. I don't think you can fight it.
That's the stride Gala needed to hit right there.
Oh, we're going to keep going onto this one. Flick back there onto Meiko. He dies as Ming gets himself a little bit of a kill. 1-0 and 100% kill participation for the support, and they are not done with this Baron buff. Still good for 40 seconds. They can crack open the base.
Yeah, they can go for this inhibitor tower if they want, and then there's the dragon to pick up on exit. And I feel the difference is the amount of effort EDG feels like they're trying to put in to pick someone. And for RNG, it feels effortless. It's like, oh, okay, someone's there, they're dead. Easy as that, and they're getting everything they want.
I mean, this is a completely different RNG that we saw in the round against EDG. They've played this best of 5, and honestly, RNG looking like they're not even trying. They're just winning so easily.
This is the best play we've seen from RNG since they lost to LGT.
What are you gonna do?
It was all downhill from there, but you know, the time off, clearly they've gotten over that.
And I mean, look, this is what we wanted to see from RNG, right? The reigning MSI champions. They do not want to be the first team in history to win MSI and then not go to Worlds. But I mean, with RNG firing all cylinders like like they are right now, it feels like EDG need to dig deep because this game too feels like it's going to RNG, and we might be looking at EDG staring in the barrel of trying to look for that reverse.
I mean, Ox, it's desperate. It is desperation plays. They're looking for big flanks. They're looking for kind of... In fairness to them, they have to. It has to be super creative because if they play standard, RNG just know how to step to their toe.
I feel like it's so strange as well because when we look at these teams, one of the reasons why they were so heavily favored coming into this, because stylistically, you know, the carries on EDG, Viper and Scout in the late game are so monstrous. It felt like if they just invested into these hyper carries we've seen in the meta, lean in the later stages, it should be a no-brainer. But RNG are the ones who have the scaling advantage in this game, and then on top of that, they're also just performing better throughout.
I will also say it feels criminal to ban Poppy and then end up giving over like Wukong and a Zeri on your next rotation in favor of a Sejuani.
They first
like
Sej.
Yeah.
I definitely can fault them for that.
Yeah, it seems bizarre to me, the parties, but here we go.
Yeah, they're going to look for the Weavers Wall to separate Junjia, who tried the dash, but
what a first pick.
You're going over the side.
Blooming hell, Dagda, you got out of here.
Wow, okay. My lord, Dagda, let the
He's
man
been holding
play.
this all game. As soon as
really
he saw him draft, he was so angry, and now he's just like letting them have it.
I will say, great work from Scout on the sideline with that TP. Means he actually picks up 2 towers, breaks open the base, but RNG are kind of having the run of it. Baron up in a minute 20. They're going to look to try and just kind of suffocate out the side of EDG. And remember, RNG are on sole point.
Yeah, I mean, this is the RNG way, right? Like, it's make it as uncomfortable as possible. Make sure that you're playing towards an easy win con, which is going to be that soul in 3 minutes, and they can just continue to keep the pressure up here.
I am going to play devil's advocate here because one thing I will say is, well, obviously we've already hit on the fact that RNG are super favored in the late stages, but they don't have Soul yet, right? Soul is 2 minutes 50 away, and if you actually look at the gold lead, RNG have 17 kills to 5 of EDG, but they're only 4k gold ahead. In fact, we actually have EDG up in turrets because of what we've seen Scout pick up in the side lane, so it does feel really doomed for EDG, but we've seen bigger gaps in games where teams have been able to bring it back.
It might be something to do with the 412 CS that we're clearly seeing.
Or even
Viper, you know?
50 or 60 CS between the AD carries, 50 between the top laners.
I feel like
400 CS, I've heard something about that before.
Yeah, I feel like this is the win con though for EDG is like, look, you basically put RNG in a pen and say Sivir boomerang and hit everyone. The AoE damage is going to be nuts, especially if you can get to that like 100% crit chance within your Q scales, that extra 50% damage, but going towards the GA means that he won't quite do so, but I definitely think for Viper, just having that extra safety here with the stopwatch is going to be key.
There's no vision. They've nothing. They've no idea what's happening around here, Ox. They have to try and walk in blind.
Yeah, I mean, they do have people who are tanky, but we saw what happened to Junjia before. Tanky is a relative to him, and I don't think anyone's that tanky against RNG. They're starting up the Baron. They want the fight. They want to bring EDG in.
Yeah, look, Meiko going in with the dredge line to just kind of break open the gap. They've got vision on it now to know that the Baron has been started and it's getting very, very low. Oh! Flash in with the Cyclone, starts it all off. RNG want to try and end this game right here, right now. You've got the Ultra Shock Laser across multiple members. Viper just cannot fight. That was your win condition, and you don't mind going a little bit too far forward. You've got multiple GAs, you've got multiple stasises. Scout trying his absolute best to keep this one going for him, but it's just not enough.
And we said they needed Ming to engage, they needed Xiaohu to engage, but this RNG has way, and he is finding these fantastic engages.
They have found the way, and it is in that jungle, as they will TP down to the bot side of the map. Meiko, it's been an honor, but yeah, there's nothing left. I mean, look, wait, let him keep the KDA at least, bud. Come on.
1, 5, and 3. I don't think he wants that kind of KDAs.
Oh,
there it is.
That was a cheeky one. That was a cheeky one.
Cheeky little one there, but RNG just look like a completely different tier. EDG haven't got a hope in hell as of right now, and they're down the barrel of a 2-0.
I mean, this is just destination. I mean, this looks so clean from RNG, and I think a lot of it is coming down to just getting these great engage tools in the draft phase, right? Vi, very easy point-and-click engage. Wukong, because the Poppy's banned, very easy engage for them. It's buying space for Gala. Xiaohu's looking fantastic on the Taliyah, and I mean, especially when we highlighted at the start of the day, Lissandra and Taliyah, such big picks for this mid laner. The fact he's getting a hands on Taliyah every single game just seems nuts.
And I feel like, you know, a lot of things to say about the game, but even from a holistic perspective, when we look at RNG, they didn't make it to the double elimination because they flubbed that last series against LGD. They got knocked out and obviously weren't able to contest for the title. But seeing them in this form, yes, we have our first and second seed locked in, and our RNG, even if they win this next game, will only be third seed.
But that's scary.
But they look so scary, right? I would feel like, not even just for the LPL teams, for any teams internationally, like RNG on form, I mean, we saw what they did in spring.
But this is also heartbreaking for EDG, right? Like, we saw them 3-0'd by top esports in the last time we saw them play off, losing that game 3 to a 10,000 gold lead because of one fight from the Zeri. Like, it feels like EDG just don't know what they're supposed to be doing here, both in draft and when they get into the game as well.
That's the big thing I want to kind of bring into it. Like, you won this matchup already convincingly, to be perfectly honest. We were talking about it. It was bot gap. Gala couldn't hold a candle to Viper. Viper's been muted. Viper hasn't really had a chance to plant his feet and have that control over the game in either game 1 or 2.
I feel like the big thing is the first time they faced against top esports, they lost just, but it was 3-2. Second time they faced, they got 3-0'd. First time they faced RNG, they beat them 3-1, and now they are down 2-0. It feels like when teams go up against EDG, even if they win like top esports, they improve from it. They learn how to handle things better. And it feels like EDG, they are not keeping pace. Like, we said the meta favored them, but it feels like their read has gotten worse. And I'm going to bring it up again. The Sejuani first pick, I have no idea, but it did not work for me.
It did not work, but also as well as that, we criticized RNG's read on the meta. They've patched that up. They now play the Zeri. They now play things that can work.
Zeri.
They picked Zeri. Well, they gave it away in the first one, but the point is that they have got ways of now working the meta around their style. They've adapted so damn well, and it's paying dividends.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that it just feels like RNG have hit their stride now. And I think this is something that we've always kind of talked about with RNG, is that, look, it takes them a little bit of time to adapt to a meta, but once they figure out how they want to play that meta, they look unstoppable. And it feels like once more you're getting good engages from Wei. He's happy to have that kind of take on that mantle and move it away from the Lissandras, from the Ming and the Nautilus and the bot side. And now that you're getting these early leads still coming their way, but then they get to set up for the mid game where they were always super strong.
Yeah, and I feel like EDG coming to this one, like, losing game 1, I don't think that is that big of a deal when you're on the red side.
Happens.
In fact, they lost on this side. There's going to be a lot of questions. I think they really re-examined their draft priorities. They picked this Renekton 2 times in a row, and as much as it had more impact in the second game, it's just not enough.
Yeah, well, we'll see if EDG choose red or blue, because they've lost on both now, and they are 0-2 down. It will take a reverse sweep to bring them back into this